Great, thank you everyone. Good afternoon. I work for a New South Wales government agency. We're called Bradfield Development Authority. We're building a new city in Western Sydney, close to the new airport, and the new city is called Bradfield. So today we're joining from the lands of the Gumbunga people, and what I'm talking about today is really about the sustainable use of resources and how we can use products containing recycled content. And I'd like to acknowledge that the traditional custodians of the land have really cared for our resources, and there's a lot we can learn. I'll be talking about two key kind of products that we developed and two key projects that we undertook as part of the program that Leeway has just talked about, the Choose Circular program, where the New South Wales DQ provided funding to New South Wales government agencies. And it's kind of similar to that question that was just asked from the audience around there are barriers, like how do you procure products that contain recycled content and how do you determine which products to really focus on. So from my perspective, this was about looking at a city build, so buildings and public spaces as well. And the second project that we undertook through this funding was around helping support local manufacturers. So we have a lot of manufacturing in Western Sydney. We have a lot of manufacturers producing building products. We'd like to use more of those building products so that, we're not transporting products as far to reduce emissions and the like, but also to support our local economy. So the second project was a capability building exercise for local manufacturers. And these projects have just finished wrapping up. And on the last slide, I'll just share the QR code if anyone's interested in seeing both of these resources. They're now available on our website. So this is Bradfield City Centre. It's obviously a render. We're calling this the first city in Australia to be designed and built since Canberra. So it's over 100 years since we've taken a greenfield site and designed and built this from scratch. It's 114 hectares, which is 5 times the size of Barangaroo. It looks a bit different to Barangaroo. Barangaroo has a lot more high-rise buildings, whereas this is mid-rise buildings, so up to around 15 stories high. And it's a medium density, mixed-use development. So it will be apartment living, like residential, up to about 15,000 residents we're expecting in this precinct. And then the buildings will be built in stages, like city blocks, like maybe the 4 Parramatta Square, if anyone has seen the development in Parramatta, where you have that kind of retail and restaurants on the bottom level, and you have commercial office buildings, but we'll also have residential apartments, hotels, parks and public spaces. And one of the first developments will be a 2-hectare central park. Where we're at the moment is the civil works are underway right now, so the roads and sewers and the like are going in. The first building has been built. It opened about 2 months ago, which is great, a government-funded building with innovation at the heart. And then once the metro station is capped, then we'll be building Central Park. Metro station opens in 2027. So what we were saying was there are just, you think about a city build, there are so many opportunities, there's so many different building products that will be used. Where should we use recycled content? So the first project, our partner was Arup, and they first of all took bills of quantities from previous mixed-use developments, and they mapped out how much of each type of building material will go into building these new buildings and the parks and public spaces. So first of all, we understood the volumes. The next was to say, we know all of these products that are going into the build, but which ones should we really focus on that contain recycled content? So they assessed each of those materials for sustainability criteria, and some of that is listed here. What's the percentage of recycled content that we could utilise? Is it utilising those problematic waste streams that Leeway shared before, textiles, plastics and the like? Are there alternative materials we should be considering instead, like bio-based, maybe straw panels for insulation instead? If using recycled content would impact the end of life, it might be more difficult to separate, and whether or not that's an impact. Embodied carbon, ease of implementation, meaning during construction, do you need to use a different type of adhesive, for example? any cost implications, and again, that driver of trying to procure from local manufacturers if possible. So then we produce this resource, and this is for architects, builders, and landscapers. Now, as a government agency, we procure the services of an architect, of a landscaper, of a builder. We don't procure building products ourselves. And so we created this resource to help drive the decision makers, the architects who specify the products, the builders and the landscapers who procure the products. And so that's what this resource is. It's for them, and it's for us to put this in front of them, and each time these key material decisions are made, to make it easier for them to consider products that contain recycled content. That's just the title page. Now it contains 13 different material types, and you can see them listed here. So under facades, we have aluminium cladding, we have clay bricks and concrete masonry, architectural glass. In internal finishes, we have things like nylon carpet and hard floor finishes, plasterboard equivalents, flooring underlay, thermal and acoustic insulation, tiles and terrazzo surfaces, fittings, furniture and equipment, plastic furniture, for example, timber like particle board, and then external works, things like the non-pressure pipe work, geo fabrics that are used a lot in landscaping, and then rubber softwall surfaces, because we'll be building things like playgrounds as well. So for each of these, there are 3 to 4 slides, and they're to provide that snapshot so that these products are considered. This is what the plasterboard 3 slides look like, so a title page and then 3 slides. So first of all, how is plasterboard typically manufactured? It's manufactured out of gypsum, there's a paper lining. Where does gypsum come from? So a bit of kind of information about how these products are typically manufactured, and then how are they used in a building, and then what are the opportunities to use recycled content. So at the moment, we typically procure plasterboard that contains 2 to 6% recycled content, but there's opportunities to use up to 20% recycled content. There are also other types of materials you could use, and I mentioned before the wheat straw panels as an example. Products are manufactured in Western Sydney and across Australia. So again, looking at where are these products manufactured, what types of priority waste streams they contain, and then what's the end of life scenario, for example, product stewardship. And then for each of these products, we also have a case study. In this case, it was a Woolworths store refurbishment in Blacktown LGA that used a product that's manufactured out of Tetra Paks in Western Sydney, and that company is called Saveboard. The second slide for each of these materials talks about considerations like acoustic performance, fire safety, durability and the like, and those impacts, the things that you need to consider during design, procurement and installation or construction. And the final slide gives a list of example suppliers. Now this is when we met with builders and architects, they said that this would be really helpful. They'd like to have a list of at least 5 suppliers that they could consider. They already have their typical supply chain, but they are interested in alternative products. And so we did preference products that are manufactured in Western Sydney when we created this guidance document, but we really did look to include Australian manufacturers. And you can see there that there are some really great products being manufactured in Australia already that contain recycled content. This slide also includes things like standards and the like. So that's the first resource that we've developed. We really hope that it's utilised a lot by industry. And then the second thing that I wanted to share was the insights from building product manufacturers. So in November last year, we did a survey and we received over 100 responses from manufacturers and industry bodies. We asked questions about using recycled content in their products and certifying those products. So we said, could you add or increase recycled content in your products? Now, as you can see there, 50% said yes, they could. They could increase the amount of recycled content they're putting in their products. The businesses that said no were actually quite interesting. Some of those said that they already use a lot of recycled content, like steel product manufacturers are using scrap steel, plastic pipe manufacturers are using a lot of pipe, and Cladding manufacturers are often using a lot of reconstituted timber. And others said that they couldn't because of regulatory side of things. Or things like carpet manufacturers, if they use textiles, recycled textiles, it can change the strength of the textile. So things like that are sometimes the barriers to why they can't increase their use of recycled content. Now, of those that could, we said, what are the barriers? Now, I'll go into a little more detail on that lack of source recycled material. I've already mentioned product performance in terms of, that regulatory side of things can be an issue, and increases in cost. And then it's quite interesting to see that they think that their customers do not perceive added value, and we think that this is going to change as, things like this government agencies preferring recycled content. We think that this will increase the demand for these types of products. With regards to the source, I thought it was interesting when we asked this question, and we asked an open-ended question about this. Now, concrete manufacturers said that they're having difficulty getting suitable recycled aggregates, and glass wool insulation manufacturers said that they need more recycled glass cullet, and plastic pipe manufacturers said that they want more pipe offcuts. So they're just some of the examples. And one of the things that we'll be doing on our next building site in Bradfield is to better set up that way of source separating on the site for reuse and recycling. So we'll be looking ahead to say what products are going to be delivered to that site and installed on the site, and do we need something like different bulker bags or this kind of collection cage like they've done in Queensland to just make sure that we're better capturing and keeping those offcuts so that they're not contaminated and can be reused. And what I noticed when I went to the first building site was that there was a skip bin, and it was a lot of the waste materials were being thrown into the one skip bin. When it went to the resource recovery site, the larger pieces were pulled out and did end up being recycled, but any smaller pieces didn't make it through that kind of separation system and ended up in landfill. So we do think that we could do better on site. The last component was just around which sustainability certifications should building product manufacturers go for. Now, it's really complex. You've got EPDs, you've got GECA, Global Green Tag, FSC Mix, and they're very expensive as well. And so particularly the smaller manufacturers were saying, which certification system should they go for, and are their customers asking for it? So we asked what the barriers were, and a lot said the cost to certify, including the cost to obtain the right documentation from their suppliers to really verify the source of that recycled feedstock. That was one of the key, and we all know how important that is with the traceability side of things. The kind of staff skill set within the organisations as well. And then this it's come out again with this customers do not perceive added value, lack of awareness by customers. And so we were surprised to see that, but we do think that will change, particularly if projects are going for things like Green Star ratings or IS ratings that award additional credits if you can prove and if your products have certain sustainability credentials. So that was just some of the feedback from that manufacturer survey that we did. And so the way that we kind of addressed that was by running a webinar in March this year, and the recording of that webinar's on our website. That brings me to the end of my presentation. I just wanted to explain to you how our agency is going about kind of developing resources to help drive these decisions and ultimately select really great sustainable building products as we build the new city. Thank you.